You're listening to Critical Mass Radio. Now, it's our turn.
Hello and good evening. Hiya, how's everyone? Okay, thanks for joining me. Wow, two opening tracks there, a bit tongue-in-cheek there. Describes the 2 weeks I've had, really. Really dramatic one. And then a bit of a pee take. I thought the law and the law won. Yeah, so, thanks a lot for joining me. I've got a load of papers here. See if I can just get them in order. I'm chaotic as usual. Okay, just make a few announcements before I start. Okay, give us a message in the chat room, make sure you can hear me. Because guess what? I've got a brand new mic and headset and everything here. So if Felice or anybody just wants to chuck us a message, you can hear me. Okay, right, so a few announcements. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I want to say thanks to a few people. I'm just chuffed I'm here tonight. Obviously I'll explain that. Okay, I want to say thanks to. I'm saying thanks to. Let's have a look. I've got it on a list here. I scribble everything down now. I've been in court that many times. I have to scribble everything down. Yeah, I want to say thanks to Phil from the chat room, who's been helping me with my YouTube account and stuff, my YouTube channel. So cheers, Phil, for that. Thanks to Lisa, who hosts the Cry Freedom show. She had me on as a guest last Thursday, and she made me sound great, to be honest. So cheers for that, Lisa. Likewise, Paul Rippon. He hosts the Unpen show, but he does an extra one on Saturdays. I think it's called Something Different Show. He had me as a guest on Saturday night. So cheers for that, Paul. And what have I got here? Homebrew from the chat room. I don't know if you're here. I can't quite see you, but he's been sorting people out, looking at some talks I did on video and spreading them out. So cheers, Homebrew, for that. So that's about it for thank yous, apart from George, the Reverend. He gave me a roasting on his show last week, saying I got off from prison because who would ever want to share a cell with me. So cheers for that, George. Love you, mate. That was brilliant, by the way. Last one. My regular stalker, Bill. He was in tears last week because he thought I was going to get locked up. Oh, he was going to put his head in microwave and all sorts. So, Bill, my stalker, if you're listening, don't worry about it. I'm still here. I'm still alive and kicking. Yeah, so cheers, Bill. Please stop contacting me, Bill. He's getting past the joke now. You know, it's one of my mates messing about, but if you don't know, Bill's been stalking me for ages, and he keeps sending me emails, and he's fell in love with me, and I don't even know who he is. Well, I probably do know who he is. He's probably one of my mates. Anyway, so cheers, Bill, for that. Okay, so I am glad to be here tonight for a number of reasons, really. Not least, I set fire to my kitchen last week, live on air. So I survived that. I survived the smoke damage. There were loads. If you play the podcast back, you can hear the crackling in the background. So yeah, set my kitchen alight last week. Okay, so tonight's theme, what's it about tonight? Well, I keep harping on about a court case I was in. Really, should have got prison time for it, and I didn't. 4 charges. If I'm traipsing on old ground, I know people have heard this before, but you may be new to CMR, so and you may not have come listen to my show. So what I want to do tonight is spend about half of the show talking about this court case that I had. I put together a package that I got this off Dean Clifford, called the Holy Trinity. This package I put together was 99.9% fantastic on paper. Took some supporters with me, put the package to the magistrates in court, and to be honest, I did a good job, really. Did a pretty good job. So it was good on paper, and it was good sort of there in the flesh, and it should have won, and I ended up getting guilty on 4 charges. But, as we saw a couple of days later, I went back to sentencing. Although they found me guilty, I spoke to my brother on the phone, and he said, you know, Rob, he said, they didn't find you guilty, they just said you were guilty. A real big difference. So even though I beat them, they found me guilty on 4 charges, driving offences, nothing too serious. But it did warrant a prison sentence, and they were pushing for that, because it's dragged on for about 6 months this now. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, although they said I was guilty, I'm going to go into this now for about half an hour or 20 minutes perhaps, the package I put together. Although they said I was guilty, the punishment was unbelievable. There is no punishment, and there were no fines. Like I say, they were driving offences, and I'm not banned from driving either. So I've been scratching my head last few days, trying to think, well, what punishment was it? And what I've realised now is that there were no punishment, and I've just consented to doing some voluntary work. It's actually called voluntary unpaid work or unpaid voluntary work. So I can tell them to stuff it if I want, but I'm not going to. There's a reason why. I kind of lost, but didn't lose a thing, and not being punished. So that's what I want to do. I want to go into the package of what I put together. That I always say this: if I've got this right, and I think I have, using this package. Now there will be better things than this. There's more intelligent people than me. There's Rob Bollocks over at Ashton's, far more intelligent than me. And there's Danny Bampin. Also, I want to say thanks to Danny Bampin. He gave me a bit of advice just before my sentencing. Cheers, Danny. I don't know whether you're listening or not. Yeah, there's a far more intelligent people than me that may have come up with something that's quicker or easier to use. But I wanted to try this package I put together, and like I say, it comes in 3 parts, so this is what I'm going to go through. So that's what I'm on with next, but before I do that, I'm going to play you this. I'll stick this on.
CMR Critical Mass Radio in association with We Are Change Manchester and Freedom Northwest. Please note the views and opinions expressed by the hosts on this show are not necessarily the views held by the station. CMR is for people who want answers, because now it's our turn.
Yeah, the all-important disclaimer there has to be said. Reason being, everything I'm saying is my own opinion and my own experiences, so it doesn't reflect the station as a whole, obviously, or anybody else on the station. Okay, so what did I stick together? I called it the Holy Trinity. Like I said, this 4 charges, this court thing has been dragging on for nearly 6 months now. Incidentally, if I could have strung it out another 2 weeks, the 6-month statute of limitations would have been up. So they would, if I've got this right, if for a statutory offence, not a crime where you've caused harm or loss, but a statutory offence, if they don't convict you within 6 months, it goes away. So they've got 6 months to do it. Well, my court case came up last week and I was 2 weeks short of 6 months. So obviously they knew, they rushed it through. Yeah, so let's get on to this. What time are we on? Oh, lovely, 7:15. Okay, the Holy Trinity thing I put together. 2 parts of it my own, 1 part of it I cannot claim credit for. Okay, so defence, that we always go into court to defend, don't we? So I decided to turn it into attack, and this is what I did. 3 parts to it. First part number 1 is, if anyone's familiar with a chap called Maud Dibb, I know a lot of people in the chat room are, and I know a lot of listeners are, but if you're unfamiliar with Maud Dibb, he was a guest on one of the shows a few weeks ago. Fantastic bloke. What he did is he used a defence against the Crown, namely Queen Elizabeth. Now this chap Maud Dibb has studied the Bible and natural laws and real laws, and what he found out is that our Queen is not the rightful Queen. Now it's quite a complicated thing, and I don't want to go into it too much, but what Maud did find out, and he used this, and the case against him from the Crown collapsed. It's to do with, I've got it here in front of me, it's about a 7 or 8 page document. And what he did is, he sent this in as a defence, and the case against him collapsed. And what is proved beyond doubt is that our Queen, Elizabeth from the House of Windsor, is not our rightful Queen. She's not our lawful Queen. Her coronation took place on a fake stone. It's called the Stone of Destiny, or the Stone of Scone. It's a fake stone that's been removed. It's hid somewhere in Scotland. So she's a fake queen. The whole coronation thing was fake. And what Maud Dibb proved beyond reasonable doubt is that because the Queen's fake and fraudulent, because of the stone, among other things, she's committing treason. She's giving the power away of Britain to a foreign entity, which is the EU, giving royal assent to that. She's also not honouring the oath that she swore to uphold God's law. So based on that, the Stone of Destiny, which is a fake, makes her a fake for nearly 60 years. But more importantly, or as important, I can't speak, my jaws froze up, is that everybody who works underneath her, the judiciary, magistrates, everybody, politicians, they are also fake because she is fake. So that's part 1 of the equation, Maud Dibb. Through a very good friend of mine, he knows Maud Dibb, and he sent it me, and I used this. So this is part 1 of the Holy Trinity I used. So in the form of an affidavit, a sworn statement, 1 week before my court case, I send in an affidavit, a sworn statement of my truth. It comes in 3 parts. A notice to dismiss the whole thing. So it's in 3 parts. The first part was more Dib's argument that should work. Everybody who's used it, the case has collapsed against them. Now this is when the Crown are taking you to court, which they were me. Now this is the Crown representing Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. So I sent that in as part 1 of mine. Okay, so that's part 1. So I got to thinking, well, it's worked for more Dib. It may not work for everybody. I thought, I need to back it up. They throw everything at us, so I thought, well, why not just mirror back and throw everything back at them? So part number 2 on my Holy Trinity, the trust. If you don't understand the trust, have a look at people like Dean Clifford on YouTube. He'll explain the trust far better than I can. Also have a look at the talks that I've done from, I think it was Divine in at Manchester and Ashton. They talk about the trust. And it's not that hard to understand, it's quite simplified. So everything's a trust relationship. So part 2 of my Holy Trinity was that Mr. Robert Freeman, or Robert Freeman in block capital letters, is a trust estate, which it is. I've used this many times. I've used it in this case. I blazed into court and made all the judges, magistrates, everybody, I made them aware that they are public servants, that they swore oaths that they are trustees, and I sacked it all off. But they still came back for me. They really do want me in my town because I've hammered them for 5 years now. Yeah, so part number 2 is the trust relationship. Without going into great detail, the legal fiction name, the all capital name, the Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so, it's a corporation, it's a legal fiction name, as we know, but it's also a trust. So, all that happens in court is, there's 3 parts to a trust. There's an executor who directs the trust, a beneficiary for whom the trust was set up, and a trustee. The trustee, to cut a long story short, is the worst part of the position and has to be told. He's the employee and gets told what to do. All that happens when we enter court is they switch the positions around. They are well aware of this. Judges, district judges, magistrates, barristers, they are well aware of this trust relationship. So when Mr. Robert Freeman goes along to court, he's going along to a private trustees meeting. If I didn't know what I was doing, I would turn up as a trustee, which means the judiciary set themselves up as the executor, and whoever takes it to court ends up being the beneficiary. To cut a long story short, I turn up as a trustee, as an employee, and get told what to do. So part 2 of my defence stroke attack was, in my affidavit, to let them know, to inform them that I am the general executor of my trust, and they are, having swore oaths and are public servants, they're my trustees. So, as my trustees, I directed them to dismiss the case. So that was part number 2. So normally that would be enough. The trust thing on its own, I can usually steam into court and that's enough. But then I'm backing it up with more Dib thing, more Dib fraudulent coronation. So I've got 2 fantastic things here. So I'll just tell you the charges. And it was never about driving. There were driving offences, but it all came from an earlier incident where I wouldn't give me details to the police. So the 4 charges were no insurance on my vehicle, which it did, having a bald tyre, or is it a bald head? Yeah, bald tyre, sorry. Not giving me details, and driving whilst disqualified. They were the 4 charges. So I thought to myself, well, driving whilst disqualified, CPS, Crown Prosecution Service, were pushing for a maximum sentence of 6 months prison. I thought, ooh, I don't fancy that. So, armed with more Dib's defence and the trust relationship, something else were nagging away at me, and I thought, hang on a minute, if I get this right, we can use this. And I thought, right, a lot of people don't want to steam into court under the trust thing. You know, it's not for everybody, and it may not go away, because what they did with me is they acted as if I'd never turned up. So I thought, well, people can't just be wandering into court saying I'm the general executor and sacking everybody off like I do. It's not for everybody. And I thought, well, the more Dib thing should work. And then it hit me. Part number 3 just came to me. Every letter I've had for the last 6 months was the Crown versus Rob Freeman, or Mr. Rob Freeman. And then it hit me because of the thing with more Dib. I thought, whoa, hang on a minute. There are 2 crowns, aren't there? There's 2 crowns. There's the Crown, which is Queen Elizabeth of the House of Windsor, the Queen, even though she's not the rightful lawful Queen. And hang on a minute. There's the Crown Corporation, the City of London. I presume most of you know this. If you don't, check it out. Just type it into Google. The Crown Corporation, an independent sovereign state. It's 1 square mile in London. They have their own police force, their own banks, their own everything. If Queen Elizabeth wants to go into the City of London, trading as a Crown Corporation, she has to ask the Mayor's permission and walk behind him. So, a sovereign state that's also a corporation. So I thought, hang on a minute, there's 2 crowns here. Which crown is taking me to court? Which crown has got a claim against me? So, I phoned Crown Prosecution Service up, and I asked the lady, one question for you, please. She said, yep, no problems. I said, can you just tell me which crown you are? She said, I don't know what you mean. I said, well, it's my understanding there are 2 crowns. Which one are you representing? I said, are you representing Queen Elizabeth of the House of Windsor? She said, yeah, I think so. So I thought in my mind, brilliant. More dib, that takes care of that. I said, only you may be representing the Crown Corporation, a private corporation. Now, let me just explain. A private corporation has no jurisdiction over you, over anybody. All they can ever do is extend the offer of a contract to you. That's all they can do. So I said, well, my understanding is you may be representing the Crown Corporation, the independent sovereign state, the private corporation. She, after spluttering and not knowing what to say, she said, I said, well, which one are you representing? She said, I think we are representing Queen Elizabeth. And then she said, the other one's nothing to do with us. And then I thought, wow, got you. It's the first time ever anyone's differentiated in that profession that there are 2 crowns. So within 5 minutes, I send a notice off to the Crown Prosecution Service saying, I've just spoke to one of your employees. She's very unsure. She doesn't know who you are or who you represent. She thinks it might be Queen Elizabeth. So for clarification, can you please tell me, you've got 7 days, which crown you are and who you represent? Are you representing Queen Elizabeth from the House of Windsor, or are you representing the Crown Private Corporation? I gave them 7 days to answer. They never got back to me. So, after they didn't get back to me, this all went into an affidavit, a sworn statement of truth by me into the court a week before, and a notice to dismiss all charges, based on the accusing party have failed to identify themselves. I can't take anybody to court if I don't identify who I am. So based on that, I thought I had a great chance of them pulling out, but they didn't. So, why didn't they? Well, I'm going to play a song now, and I'll tell you why they didn't pull out, and why they went through all the rigmarole of an actual trial, and it was a 3-hour trial.
Good day, public. We are anonymous. Operation Jubilee, 5th of November 2012. Gather peacefully at the Parliament Building, London, to declare the true Jubilee. Cancel all debt. Stop war. Redistribute the land and eliminate poverty.
It's time.
With enough faith, united together we can move a mountain. It's going to take all of us. We are all anonymous. It's time to stand up for yourself, your family and your country. Show up and count yourself in the 99% anonymous millions. There can be no forgiveness without true and full repentance. If you do not repent, we cannot forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Yeah, welcome back. Yeah, so, I've got my own jingle. I can't stop playing it. I've already played it once tonight. I'm behaving. Yeah, so, great song there from Dead Man's Shoes, that song. And, of course, the... I've got some flashing lights again. I always talk to myself. I've got some mad flashing lights going there. Yeah, the anonymous thing there. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, okay, so, where did I get to? Oh, just looking in the chat room now. Is it Dr. Watts? Says he did some research on the City of London, and it's not called the City of London. See if I can find it. Yeah, okay. Dr. Watson, sorry. Did some research on the City of London. Not called the City of London. It's unbelievable, but true. Yeah, the private corporation that I was telling you about. Get this. They're a private corporation, and their official trading name is, and I've wrote it down because I always seem to get this wrong. Listen to this. How does this how's this for deceiving us all? The private corporation in the City of London trade under their official trading name has, with a H, as Her Majesty in Right of England. I'll say that again if you've never come across this. The Crown Corporation, the private corporation in the City of London, their trading name is Her Majesty in Right of England. Okay, they obviously call themselves that to trick us into thinking that every time the Crown take us to court, it's the Queen. Well, I'll tell you now, it's not the Queen, it's a private corporation. And as such, they've got no jurisdiction. All they can do is extend the offer of a contract. Okay, so based on that, it seems to be dragging this. I thought it'd be quicker than this, so I'll try and speed it up a little bit. Based on that, my Holy Trinity, my three parts of my defence stroke attack is, number one, more dib. If the Crown are representing the Queen, then tough, she's not legitimate, she's fake, go away. The trust relationship, I'm the general executor of my trust, you are my trustees, I tell you what to do, unless you've got some authority in my trust, which you can never have, because it's between me and God. Number two, the trust relationship, I can tell them, go away. The Crown, private corporation, it's been staring me in the face for about 18 months, I've only just realised. The Crown Corporation, private corporation, you have got no jurisdiction, thanks to our Rev, George, reminding me of this. If I'm stood inside the 1 square mile, you have jurisdiction over me. I've never even been in the place. The Crown, the private corporation, Her Majesty in Right of England, you've got no jurisdiction over me. All you can do is extend the offer of a contract to me, which I can refuse at any time. So, part number 3 of the Holy Trinity sent the whole lot in. They ignored it. They didn't get back to me. All I asked for was, if you're the private corporation, send me a copy of the contract that we've got in place, otherwise leave me alone. So, cut long story short, 7 days goes by, I end up having to go to court, defend myself in court. Pippa from our station came with me, and I think I took about 10 or 12 people with me, and I did a great job. I had to face 3 magistrates, the clerk to the justices, the legal expert, a barrister from Crown Prosecution Service, who else? And 2 police officers separately took the witness stand. I had to cross-examine them. And to cut a long story short, the 4 charges, I got rid of them all. The one with no insurance, my car was on a trader's policy. I ended up getting the female officer to admit that. I said, why was it not impounded? I asked her what the normal procedure was for a car with no insurance. She says it gets impounded. If nobody collects it within 2 weeks, it gets destroyed. I said, was my car impounded? She said no. I asked why not. She couldn't answer. In the end, she admitted on oath, we gave you the benefit of the doubt. So brilliant. I'm up for a charge of no insurance, and she just admitted on oath that the police gave me the benefit of the doubt. So, got rid of that charge. Driving with a tyre that's, I can't remember the correct terminology, but a tyre that was under tread. I actually conceded that in court. I said, I don't know what to look for. Maybe my tyre was under tread. I'm not disputing that. But I didn't see a measuring device come out the night I was arrested. I was arrested at the side of the road, you see, actually in a car park. There was no measuring device to ascertain exactly if it was under, but I tried to be honourable and I said, I concede it may have been under tread, I don't know. So I gave them that, I left that one hanging. Charge number 3, not giving me details. I asked them to quote the law that says I have to give me details. In the end, they couldn't quote one, so charge number 3 gone. So far, I'm representing myself in court. I look like a barrister. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm scribbling like mad, but I seem to be doing a good job. I've got the police feeling uncomfortable. Every time I back him into a corner, the magistrates jump in and save him and say, move on, Mr. Freeman, move on. And I look at them and I think, I look at my supporters. They were in the public gallery behind bulletproof glass, so I'm waving to them every now and again and helping myself to water. And my mate day after says, Rob, you were so cool, you were just slouching in your chair like you've been doing it years. I don't know why, I just looked really cool. I weren't, but I just looked at it. So anyway, the big thing is that I don't show any fear whatsoever. I was a guest on Paul Rippon's show on Saturday, and he says, "Oh, you must have been terrified." And to be honest, Paul and everybody else, I'm not scared at all. There is no fear, because I approach it that they are all wearing costumes, they are all actors, they're all playing a role, and it's just pantomime. That's all it is. All right, admittedly they can lock me up, but it's just pantomime, innit? So these people aren't used to it. These people aren't used to, 1, you representing yourself. 2, if you do represent yourself, they don't think you have any idea about what you're doing. And 3, they want you to be fearful. They want you to be scared. They want you to be terrified. And it's like the Wizard of Oz film, isn't it? You pull the curtain back, and there's a little old bloke speaking down a mic, isn't they? And it's all smoke and mirrors. And they really get annoyed with me because I don't show any fear. I mean, 8 of them dived on me and arrested me, handcuffed me the night I was arrested, without even saying a word, and dragged me into the cells, and I'm still not frightened. And the reason I'm not frightened is just one thing, and that is because I've not done anything wrong. So why the hell should I be frightened of them or anybody else? Yeah, so they can't handle this non-fear thing. Yeah, so that's 3 charges gone. Boom, done. Charge number 4, the big one. Driving whilst disqualified. Interesting. I've studied like mad. I've come up with this package, they've ignored it. But I know this package is the 3 things that I've put together: more dib, the trust, the crown. They cannot find me guilty, I think, in my mind. It's impossible. Even though they've ignored... I asked them when I first went in to the magistrates, did you read my affidavit with the notice to dismiss? They neither confirmed or denied that they'd read it. I know they'd read it, but they wouldn't confirm or deny. They said, you can ask that at the end. When I tried to ask at the end, they said, it's not the right time to ask it yet. So they would not confirm or deny whether they read my affidavit. I know they read it, and so does everybody else. So they very skillfully manoeuvred it. And then they recessed and then came back with a verdict. So they evaded the whole thing. Now, this is what I need a bit of help in. The package is right. You cannot lose. I'll explain the driving whilst disqualified thing first, and then I'll explain the package just before we finish on this subject. Okay, so charge number 4, driving whilst disqualified. I've got 15 law dictionaries which I study and read. Not for me to use the words, so that I understand the words they're using against us, and then I can mirror them back. Okay, driving whilst disqualified. I use this in court. By the way, Pippa made a loose transcript. I always struggle with that word, don't I? A loose transcript of the actual hearing. So if anybody wants it, if you email me at the show, outofthematrix@criticalmassradio.co.uk, I'll send you the loose transcript. Yeah, thanks, Pippa, for that. I don't know whether you hear or not. Yeah, so driving whilst disqualified. Okay, I studied their law books. I say in court that here's Black's Law Dictionary, 9th edition. I say to the magistrates, I'm the Crown Prosecution Service barrister. The coppers now are off the stand and sat at the back of the court, ready to jump on me, to intimidate me further. I say to all them, I'm the barrister, who daren't even look me in the face, what definition of disqualification are you using? I say to them, according to Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition or 9th edition, I've got bloody millions of them, this is the definition in your law books, your dictionaries. It explains what your legal words mean. So now, I'm not even going down the lawful route, the Freeman route. I'm actually going down the legal route, which is why I wanted to try this out. And I said to him, your definition, these are your words, magistrates. These are your words, your books, and your definitions. This is not me trying to put a Freeman take on it or a lawful take on it. This is your description of your words. Disqualification, according to your dictionaries and law books, means to make ineligible. Ineligible means unable to serve in office. Okay. So I point this out. You cannot ever be disqualified from driving, folks. Ever. All they are really doing is disqualifying you, making it ineligible for you to serve in office. Well, legally speaking, what does serve in office mean? It's crazy, isn't it? Boxing vicar, yeah, it is all mixed up, Brian, you're right, mate. It's meant to be like that because every statute law, they call it a law, it's a statute. Now, if you don't cause harm or loss, I always say that, but it's harm really, to another living soul and be as honourable as possible, you've never ever committed a crime. And so they've invented statutes, not to punish us for being sinners, although that's what they view us as, it's to extract more money off us. The punishment for every statutory offence is always money. Statutes are the law of money. But a statute has only got the force of law when we consent to it. That's all it is. And I'm pointing this out. I think I educated the magistrates, actually, and the barrister, and maybe the clerk to the justices. So, you can never be disqualified from driving. All they can do is make it ineligible for you to serve in office. What does that mean? It means, whilst I was driving, and they say I was disqualified. It means they made it impossible for me to be a public servant or to work for the government, a government agent. That's all they can disqualify me for. So I pointed it out to him. I pointed it out to the barrister. I said, what definition of disqualification are you using? Because this is, according to your books, what it means. Well, I sent my licence back years ago. I don't want to be a government agent. I don't want to work for the government. You can't force me. It's a contract. So based on that, he didn't know what to say. And the magistrates jumped in and said, Mr. Freeman, that definition is without merit. I nearly tripped up. I said, I beg your pardon. The head magistrate, the centre one, the one in the middle, said, that definition, Mr. Freeman, is without merit. Let's move on. What that means, folks, is that I've caught them out. They don't want this. They don't want this news breaking out. As far as they're concerned, I'm going to tell everybody you cannot be disqualified from driving. It's absolutely impossible. So what did they say? It's without merit. What that means is that they can make the law up as they see fit. They're ignoring now their own laws and rules. First thing I said when I went in court is, who's bringing the claim against me? I said to this chap, who are you? He said, I'm a barrister. I said, where from? He said, Crown Prosecution Service. I said to the magistrate, who is, remember the affidavit of the notice I'd sent in? I said, who is he representing? How can he bring a claim against me? He's not identified himself. Again, let's move on. So, excuse me. So what I'm coming to is, the package I put together. The Crown were a private corporation. All they can do, and I asked it for them, is to offer me a contract. Because it's contractual, I don't have to take it. So I argued with the barrister. I said, a licence is permission. Government can only grant you permission to do lawful things. They can't grant you permission to do unlawful things like breaking and entering or hurting someone. So, if it's lawful anyway, why are we seeking permission? Why are we having a licence? Because the licence that we engage in makes us a government agent. It means we're working for the government in that capacity, which then they can disqualify me for being a government agent. They can make it ineligible for me to hold office, to serve in office. I sent my licence back years ago. So the barrister says, are you saying you don't need a licence? I said, yes, I don't need a licence. I don't want to be a government agent. You've just proved my point. So I sent the licence back. So that's that claim, that's gone. Disqualification, driving whilst disqualified. I've blown it out of the water. So a few more things occurred and blah, blah, blah. And they went to retire. They retired for 30 minutes. I mean, that is a long time for driving offences. So, decision comes by after 30 minutes. I have a cigarette outside with my mates. Go back in. After 30 minutes, stand up, Mr. Freeman. Now, this is the first time ever I've gone down the legal route. I normally just steam into court, point at the magistrates, say, you and you public servants, you all swore oaths, you're my trustees, sack it off and get withdrawal charges and walk out. And it usually works every time. But I wanted to go down this legal route. Bit of a risk, really, because Crown Prosecution Service were pushing for 6-month sentence. Driving whilst disqualified carries maximum of 6-month sentence. You're not forced to get it, but that's what they were pushing for. So the verdict comes back after half an hour. I stand up, Mr. Freeman. First three charges. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Oh, right, okay. Fourth charge, driving whilst disqualified. Guilty. Well, I thought, brilliant. Brilliant, I've just disproved all your claim. You've not even identified who's bringing a claim against me, and I'm guilty on all 4 counts. So a bit gutted, really, I thought. So quick thinking, like I always do, I said, they were ready to sentence me there and then last Tuesday. And I said, can you delay sentencing, please? I've got children, I need to make some arrangements. Just trying to buy myself a little bit of time. And they said, come back Thursday morning for your punishment. Now, I've been winding these people up now for 5 years. This case has dragged on. When it very first started 6 months ago, or just short of, the magistrate said, if you don't plead guilty now, and in 6 months' time we find you guilty, we're going to give you the maximum. So I've got 2 days. I've got from Tuesday to Thursday morning to say goodbye to everyone, to do my last show, which I thought was last week, and I go for sentencing. I'll stick a song on now and tell you what happened during sentencing. Quite interesting, really. So, like I said, statute law, it's all by consent. What time are we on? Oh, I've got about 55 minutes, so that's all right. Yeah, statute law. It's the law of money. That's all they're interested in. Any punishment is all about money. But they wanted to lock me up, even though it's all about money and extracting funds off you. They wanted to lock me up, to shut me up. They wanted the maximum sentence because I don't know how much that barrister gets paid. Probably, I don't know, bloody 500 quid an hour. But I beat him, and it was easy, and he wouldn't look me in the face. And I beat the magistrates, and I beat the legal people, and I beat the coppers, because they'd swapped statements around and everything. I got them on their, their notebooks. I'll just tell you briefly, before I put this song on. The police have notebooks, the most important thing they've ever got. Any incident, they have to fill their notebooks in. When they fill them in, they have to be done in what's called contemporaneous form, which means they have to write it down, the time, exact time, the date, and everything. If something happens 1 minute later, they have to write that time and the incident down. At the end of the shift, they have to sign off, all-important signature. The notebooks are very, very important. They cannot mess about with them. I've requested their contemporaneous notebooks. The magistrates came out when they gave the verdict and said, request rejected. They don't want me looking at their notebooks because 3 police officers have swapped and changed them around. You cannot do that. Thanks to Pippa, I've found out now that I can get what's called a subject access request and get a copy of those notebooks. They cannot be messed around with. This will prove my point on how fraudulent it all was. Yeah, so that's where I stood. So I beat them on everything. I beat the police, I beat them all, and I still got 4 guilty charges. So sentencing 2 days later. I'll stick to this song and tell you what happened at sentencing. Yeah, the Critical Mass radio conference. Yeah, it's if you're there on the homepage, which you will be. Just have a look to your right there. Some great speakers there. It looks like being a fantastic first conference, that, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that myself. I might go to that. Oh, hang on a minute. I'm speaking, aren't I? Yeah, I'm definitely going to that. Sorry. What am I thinking of? I might go to that. Pilchard. Right, okay, so some good statements in the chat room there. I like it. How can you be doing a radio show tonight? I think Dr. Watson put, if you're such a criminal. Yeah. Mad, isn't it? Dr. Watson, that was, yeah. Okay, so I'll speed this up because it seems to be going really slow. Okay, so got found guilty, all 4 charges. The reason I'm going on about this particular court case is I don't know whether any of you or some of you have grasped the significance of what I've done. The 3-thing package, the Holy Trinity thing, I'll explain after talk about the sentencing. I'll explain why I really won, even though I lost, but I really won, and how we can utilise this. So I'll get onto the sentencing bit. So Tuesday I get found guilty on all 4 charges. Thursday morning I go back. All I do is take my mate and his wife, say goodbye to my kids, give my mate my phone, and I think, well, I've tried everything. They're just going to bloody lock me up for 6 months. So I said goodbye to everybody on CMR last Wednesday night on the show, and I say it might not happen, but it might. And we're all a bit cheesed off, aren't we? Because we want to see a victory for us all, don't we? And we want to move forward, and it looks like a step backwards, doesn't it? But anyway, I go Thursday morning, and I'm expecting the same thing to be railroaded and took down there and then. So my mate and his wife are in the public gallery. I go and see the probation officer, and it's a woman, and she says, right, Rob, she says they're going to want either one of these 3 things or all 3 things. They're going to want a prison sentence, or they might want to put you on an electronic tag, which is called a curfew, or they might demand a community order, which is voluntary unpaid work. She says any one of them 3 or a combination of all 3. So I say I'm not having a tag on. Excuse me. I say I'm not having a tag on. She says why not? I says well, I'm electrosensitive. She says what's that mean? I says well, I can't have anything electrical in my body. It makes me ill. Quick thinking by me. I just pulled it out of thin air like they do. It's an assumption. So she says, oh, right, I've never come across that before. She goes, can you get medical evidence? I says, yeah, if you adjourn it now, I'll get something next couple of weeks. Just stalling for time, really. Anyway, she says, well, it looks like it's going to be a prison sentence if you won't accept a tag. And I was prepared. I don't want a tag on. The Rev would give you a job as a barrister. Yeah, a few people said that, Rev. Oh, well, I don't mind wearing a wig, Rev, but I don't think I could be a barrister for long. But I don't think wigs would suit me okay. Yeah, anyway, so she says, well, it looks like a prison sentence or community order or both. So I'm prepared now to go to prison. I don't want that electronic tag on. for reasons I'll go into another time, but it's not good. So, time to go in. Same courtroom, everything same. I walk in, hang on, there's just one magistrate, just a bloke sat on his own, little old bloke sat at the back. Felt a bit sorry for him, only tiny. An illegal woman typing in front of him, and somebody, my probation officer sat there, who I'd just spoken to, and this other person. So this other person reads out, you've got 4 guilty charges. The magistrate, looking back now, he may have been a district judge. So he says, if he was a magistrate or a district judge, he says, we're here for sentencing. He calls me Rob. He says, we're here for sentencing only, Rob. We can't discuss the case. I thought, I know you can't, because I proved you all wrong. He says, we can't discuss it. The decision's been made. My job here is to sentence you. So I thought, all right. He says, do you want to sit down, Rob? He said, I've just got some paper shuffling to do. I'm thinking, hang on, what's going on here? Rob? We never liked it. It was very, very unfriendly before. Now he's super friendly. So, he shuffles some papers around. She reads out 4 guilty charges, this woman, whoever she is. She sits down. He says, Rob, do you want to stand up? I thought, he's taking Mickey, isn't he? Do I want to stand up? That's not how it's featured in court, is it? So I'm stood there, and he says, right, driving with no insurance. Bear in mind, I quashed this. He said, we'll not have a fine for that. I thought, hey, hello. He says, so I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll stick a few points on your licence. Now, bear in mind, in court, I'd already told him 2 days before, I sent my licence back 5 years ago, I don't want it. So he says, we'll stick some points on your licence. So I thought, oh, that's all right, no fine. Driving with a bald tyre, or however they say, under tread tyre. He said, we'll not have a fine for that, Rob. I thought, what's going on here? He says, we'll stick a few points on your licence. So I'm thinking, hang on a minute. I've got away with 2 fines here, and they're sticking points on a licence that doesn't exist that I sent back years ago because it's a contract. So I'm thinking, that's not bad, that. Not giving me details at the side of the road, he never even mentions it. So, 3 charges just gone. So far, I've had no fines. No punishment yet. All he's done is stick points on a licence that doesn't exist. So I'm starting to think, whoa, are they going to try something big with the disqualification thing? Are they buttering me up to hammer me? So he says, right, driving whilst disqualified. I thought, hello. He says, I've got a recommendation, a request here from the magistrates and the Crown Prosecution Service that you get the maximum sentence. I thought, hello. And he says, but I'm not going to do that. And he paused, and I thought, he's not going to give me 6 months. He's going to give me 3 months, or he's going to give me 2 months, or something. You can't believe it, folks. He went, I've just got to get the right phrase. He went, right, he says, driving whilst disqualified. He says, your punitive or punishment is, he says, I'll tell you what, we'll not have a fine for that. I thought, this is getting bloody ridiculous. We'll not have a fine. I expected about a £3,000 fine or something. He says, we'll not have a fine for that. I'm thinking, bloody hell. He says, you've had a word with the probation officer, haven't you? And you're very keen to do some voluntary work. I said, yeah, never mentioned the tag. He says, well, I'll tell you what, your punishment can be that you could do some voluntary work, working in a shelter with some homeless people. I'm thinking, what the bloody hell's going on here? He says, yeah, that'll be your punishment, Rob. He says, right. He says, no points from that. No, nothing. Just I agree to work to help out some voluntary work. So I'm thinking something's going to happen here. He says, right. I'm trying to get the right order. What happened? Okay, right. He said, I've got 2 options for you. He said, I can either disqualify you now from driving, which there is no disqualification. He says, but option 2 will be better for you, Rob. He calls me Rob. He says, why don't I stick a couple of points on your licence? He says, then all you've got to do is, when you get out of here, apply for your licence again and you're free to carry on driving. I thought, what the hell's going on here? I said, all right, then I'll go for option 2. He went, oh, lovely. So far, folks, I've had no punishment whatsoever on 4 guilty charges, and 1 carries a prison sentence. So what I'm trying to get at is my package was right. They just would not admit it. So the last one, he says, right, money. And I thought, oh, yeah, of course, you leave that till last. Fine me £3 million because I ain't paying you a penny. He went, right. He says, there's no fines. He says, but the other side, I've got some court costs. I thought, all right, okay. Uni, no, it's not a repeat from last week, Uni. I'm just going over the same stuff. Or similar stuff. That's Uni in the chat room. He says, right, money. He says, the Crown Prosecution barrister has put a bill in for $775. He said, "Oh, no, Rob, you're not paying that." And I thought to myself, "Yeah, you're right, mate, I'm not paying that." He said, "I'll tell you what, how does 350 quid sound?" I'm thinking, I was dying to shout out, "It sounds like something I'm not going to fucking pay," but I said, "Oh," I thought, I can't say that. So I looked at him and pulled a bit of a face as if to say it's a bit steep. So he went, "Oh," like looked at me, because I was like grimacing, because I don't want to pay him anything. He said, "Oh, you're a single parent, aren't you?" I went, "Yeah." He went, "Well, I'll tell you what, can you manage a £5 a week?" I was like, "What?" I says, "Oh, yeah, go on then." I says, "If I stretch myself a little bit, yeah, I'll pay a £5 a week. I'm not going to pay him anything." So he went, "Right, sorted then." He says, "Your punishment is some voluntary work, and you have to split the other bloke's costs and stick, because you're a single parent, stick a £5 a week in." So off you go. So I came out, and then Paul rung me about 10-15 minutes after, and it was like, "Dude, what's just happened?" You know, from 2 days ago, in 48 hours, it was a complete 180-degree roundabout bloody panic thing on their part. So why? I've had time to reflect on it now. Why? Why didn't they punish me? Well, the disqualification thing I did prove, but they said it was without merit. The court record is a is a private record. They can do what they want. The court transcript, which I'm asking for now, at some point, they can just doctor it because it's a private trustees meeting. So why were they so worried? I did beat them on the disqualification, but the 3 phases to the package, the Holy Trinity, more dib if they are representing the Queen. The trust, I appointed myself as the general executor and them as trustees. As trustees, they have to do as I tell them. More importantly, the third bit to it, you did not identify yourself. I asked you, are you the Crown Prosecution Service? Are you the private corporation? Identify yourself. If not, there is no claim. So really, they did everything I asked for. Excuse me. They did everything I asked for, but without admitting it. These psychos are so far gone, they will not admit it. They will not admit it in front of the small party of people I took with me. Now, what I've realised is, I'll stick another song in 5 minutes because this is the end of this, and I'll do a bit of something else towards the end. So, I've got this package together. Folks, it cannot be beaten. What does it mean? It means Crown Prosecution Service can never, ever, ever bring a claim to us for anything, whether it's driving or whatever, because they first have to identify themselves. They cannot identify themselves as representing Queen Elizabeth. If they do, more dib, thank you very much and good night. If they then identify themselves as a private corporation, Her Majesty in Right of England, the private corporation, lovely. Do us a favour, just show us a contract. Remember, a private corporation can only, they've got no jurisdiction. This is all they can do is extend the offer of a contract. So, if you're representing the private corporation, Her Majesty in Right of England, do us a favour. This is me accepting things again and mirroring it back. Just show us a copy of the contract we've both signed. They can't do it. The licence itself, the driving licence in my particular case, is contractual. I've sent it back. They've admitted it's contractual. So, where does that leave us? It leaves us with any corporation wanting to take us to court, whether it's Tesco, Asda, Royal Bank of Scotland, whoever it is. Go back to my 3 things that I always use. Show me the contract that we've both entered. Not an agreement signed by me or one of us. Show us the contract that we've both entered, both agreed on in lawful terms, a meeting of the minds that we've both signed. If you are a corporation, show us the contract. Otherwise, if you can't do, piss off and leave me alone. So, the culmination of all this is, we can never be taken to court and found guilty by any corporation. We can never be found guilty by the Crown because it is a corporation. If they say they are not a corporation, then the more dib thing gets rid of it. We can tell them that everything's in a trust, that we're in a trust, that our legal fiction name is a trust. It's so easy. I'll write it all down and go into this and people can have it. It applies to absolutely everything because no corporation, the Magistrates Court are a corporation. They contracted, that's why he said, you're keen to do voluntary work. It's voluntary. It's voluntary servitude, but I don't have to do it. The reason I'm doing it, I'm going through with it, is I found out I can request those police officers' notebooks. That's what I'm going to do, and then take it to a higher court, and then put a claim for quite a lot of money. So it's not voluntary work. I'm actually going to get paid for it, so I'll keep on doing it till I get those books, Could take up to 6 weeks for me to get those books, so I'm just hanging fire. So remember, people listening for the first time might think, Rob Freeman, what a knob, he just wants to get out of things. No, I don't. I don't want to get out of things. I do not commit crimes, and neither do any of us. We do not... Oh, City of London might be listening there. Okay, just looking on the globe. We do not commit crimes because we do not cause harm or loss to anybody, to another living soul. In that respect, statute law does not apply to us because it's consensual, it's contractual, nobody can force us into it, all they do is trick us into it. So all the codes, bylaws, statutes, regulations, whatever you want to call them, show me a contract or go away, it's as simple as that. So, that's where we're at. By rights, we should never ever be in trouble for anything unless we commit a proper crime where somebody stands up and says he or she has done this to me and signs a sworn statement. That signature is everything. That's why they never sign anything for statute law, because they know it's not true. All they do is trick us. So that's where we're at. We should never be able to get in trouble for absolutely anything. I'm going to expand on this. I'm going to stick another song on now and slightly change subjects a bit. Okay, so my punishment was to go to a homeless shelter. It was exactly 2 minutes walk from my house. They changed it at the last minute. They changed it yesterday. They rung me up and said, Rob, we've changed our minds. Could you please go to a church? I thought, hello. So now I'm in a church. I went to a church. It's 2 minutes from my kid's school. Oh, thanks, Paul. Nice message from Paul in the chat room there. They said, we want you to do this church thing. I thought, hello, why don't they want me talking to homeless? Is it because I may... Oh, cheers, Uni. Is it because I may be telling the homeless people what rights they've got? I'll be bloody trying to claim my own house back. Excuse me, just have a drink of water. So they said, can you go to this church, please? So I went to a church. That's it. Incidentally, that's ironic, isn't it? A church that poses as a court of not giving me any punishment or fines, asked me to go halves on some costs, and said, oh, would you like to do a bit of voluntary work? Where? Back in one of our churches. Interesting. So I'll go along today. I've done it today for the first time. I've gone to church. Wow. Very interesting. All I've done out of the 6 hours I was there, I've done about an hour and 45 minutes of trimming the grass round gravestones. Singing along, I got a set of headphones on, a face guard, this electric strimmer that I've never even used before. I look like bloody Jason off Friday 13th, having a laugh. Going round the gravestones in my own merry way, sun shining, doing a bit of sun gazing, singing opera to myself. And that's my punishment, folks. So, yeah, I loved it. I'm back again, not tomorrow, I think the day after. Yeah, so that's my punishment. So, at first when I got there was two other lads there for various things. And the bloke running it says, Rob, do you just want to sit in church? I went, all right then, yeah. I said, is that what I've got to do all day? He said, yeah, just sit in church. I said, well, what do you want me to do in there? He said, well, you can light a few candles if you want. I said, burst out laughing. I thought, oh, I'll light a candle to the CPS then. And he said, well, you can read Bible and just tidy up and, walk round, do a bit of dusting. I thought, no. So I went in there for about half an hour, I was bored shitless. So I come back out and said, his name's Rob, but it's Robin. I went, Robin, can I do this streaming? I said, I'm bored in there. He says, go on then, if you can do what you want, really. So it's nothing. I've got no punishment whatsoever, so I know it works. So I'm in there. With that first half an hour in church, I'm looking round at the Roberto Bocelli. I'm looking round at, hey, Dr. Watson 2, Roberto Bocelli. I've actually got a song by Bocelli in about 2 minutes. Psychic, mate. Yeah, so I'm sat in the church, I'm reading the Bible, I think I've read it all because I'm a Catholic anyway, and I'm looking at all the bloody Satanism that's in there. And I thought to myself, I'll tell you what, I'll have a quick chat with God if he exists, which I don't think he does. We've all got an archetypal image of who God is. I think he's a bloke with a beard in the sky. That's for want of a better figure. So I have a bit of a chat with him, and I think, hang on, I'm cracking up here. And that's when I got bored and thought, what am I doing? I don't believe in you, so why am I sat in your church reading a book that's encoded? I shouldn't really be in here. And I felt quite bad for being in there. And he didn't answer back anyway. I asked him a couple of questions, next week's lottery numbers and stuff, and he never answered back anyway. And I thought to myself, I don't want to be in here. I felt uncomfortable in the church, can you believe it? So I thought, if God had a voice, I wonder what it'd sound like. And then I found this out last night. Was it last night? Today, actually. No, I don't know when I found it out. Anyway, I found this out, and I've always thought, that God would probably sound like this. If God had a speaking voice and we're talking in that church, it'd probably sound like, it's only about a minute long. See what you think to this. Yeah, so I was best about really in church, thinking that's probably what God would sound like. And I read that. That's from something called Ephesians, I think it's called. And yeah, it's quite interesting. So he didn't speak back to me. And then I got to thinking now, doing my streaming later on, streaming around the gravestones, singing opera. And I thought, well, if God had a speaking voice, it would be that actor. Well, I forgot his name now. What did I say? It was James Earl Jones, yeah. And I thought, well, if God had a singing voice, I wonder what it'd sound like. I'll see you back in 2 or 3 minutes. This is what I think God's singing voice would sound like. Yeah, sorry, folks. I made a mistake there. You all thought that was Andrea Bocelli singing there. It was actually me. It was me streaming. So, yeah, I recorded myself on my phone. That was me singing opera there. I wish it was, yeah. Andrea Bocelli, fantastic voice, wasn't it? Yeah, so God had probably... Somebody's laughing at me there. Don't be laughing at me too much there. I thought it was... Well, it sounded like me in my head when I was doing it. It sounded just like that inside, but I recorded it on my phone and played it back, and it sounded nothing like that. So, yeah, fantastic voice, hasn't he? And God would probably sing like that. Yeah, so, how long have we got? I've only got 20 minutes left because, hopefully, and I think it's right, our Alex is on with the Razor's Edge show. You know, when he manages to do one about every 3 weeks, Alex, because he's proactive and he's videoing, he's out doing stuff. Fantastic, he's so busy. And I miss Alex's show because if you've never heard it before, or even if you have heard it before, you always come away from Alex's show thinking, bloody hell. He just tells it like it is. He puts his little, not spin on things, but he's in his own unique way. And you always come away from Alex's show thinking, yeah, he's bloody right. So yeah, I'm going to listen to that Razor's Edge show straight after me. Perhaps 9 o'clock he'll be on. And I'm glad he's here. So what I was going to do for you tonight is I'm going to run out of time here. 20 minutes. I've got about 20 minutes. The section I've got was all about land. I don't think I'm going to really... It's quite relevant, and I think it needs a bit more justice. I'll tell you what it is. It's from a book written... I'm not going to do it tonight because it needs about a good half an hour, 40 minutes really doing on this. It's from a book written by a chap called Kevin Cahill. It's a book called Who Owns Britain and Ireland? In fact, I'll do a little bit on it. Because it's quite interesting. So, yeah, forget about all my court case and all that. I won anyway. And I forgot to tell you, I've taken it to a higher court where the police notebooks will be supplied. I've taken it to a lot higher court and I'll be claiming thousands of pounds against them. Damages, yeah. So that's it. That's done for my court case now. And I'll carry on nipping to church. So, yeah, a book by Kevin Cahill called Who Owns Britain and Ireland? Wow. What a book. So, if you would just bear with me 2 minutes, I've put it on too. I can't get the book itself. I've not read the book because it's 45 quid and it's just come out. And I can't warrant paying 45 quid at the moment for a book. I'm going to get it at the end of the week. So what I've done is, I couldn't find the whole book. I found excerpts from it, and it's called Who Owns Britain and Ireland? Interesting book. But what I did find was, the author is called Kevin Cahill. But what I found was a review by a chap called William Podmore. Now, William Podmore, I've read quite a few. He reviews books, and he's brilliant. So he has read this whole book, and there's some fascinating things here, chaps and chapesses. Who Owns Britain and Ireland? No one's ever done this before, as far as I'm concerned. They're certainly not as concise and as in-depth as this. So this is a review by William Podmore of the book Who Owns Britain and Ireland by Kevin Cahill. No one's researched it as far as I'm concerned as much as this. So this is not the whole book, this is parts of the book. So the review by William Podmore. Okay. He puts, this is a remarkable and original survey of land ownership in Britain and Ireland, detailed county by county. Now, some interesting stuff here, folks. Not only have we got the judiciary and everything to contend with, the cops, everything else that's going on, the chemtrails and everything, the landmass of Britain and Ireland, the geographical landmass, who owns the land? This is interesting. I found some great stuff here. Okay. For Britain, Kevin Cahill analyses this land. Remember, this is a review of the book by a chap called William Podmore. For Britain, Kevin Cahill analyses this land ownership, showing how a tiny minority exploits British society. Okay, and what he's found out is that a relatively small group of families own most of the land. Obviously, it's not news to us, but it's interesting because when you see the figures that this chap's come up with, it's amazing. What he's found out is a relatively small group of families, anyway, Okay, the group of families that own most of the land equates to 0.3% of the population. Okay, that's not even 0.5%. It's just over 0.25% of the population. So just over 0.25% of Britain's population own 37 million acres. That is roughly almost or just about 2/3 of Britain. 2/3 of Britain is owned by 0.25% of the population. 57% of Scotland is owned by just 1,252 people. Wow. Okay, these landowners, these elite families, they pay no land tax. Instead, every government gives them £2.3 billion a year. For owning land, they are granted between them £2.3 billion a year. And the EU gives them a further £2 billion. Wow. Okay, by contrast, this is amazing. 57.5 million British people, that's us, pay £10 billion a year in council tax, a land tax, basically. Let's read that again. 57.5 million British people pay 10 billion with a B pounds a year in council tax. People said to me, Rob Freeman, you're a knob, you don't pay council tax, you don't want to pay out. It goes for emptying your dustbin, it goes for this. Yeah, I don't want to pay out. These people, we're paying £10 billion a year in council tax alone, just in council. We're supposed to be struggling for money. We pay 10 billion with a B pounds a year in council tax alone. Well, I don't, but most people do. It's a land tax. It's another trick to get money off us. We live in 24 million homes on about 4 million acres. So, 16 million of us, there's 24 million homes, so roughly 16 million people. I suppose that's an average of, what is it, three per household. 16 million of us own, get this, that's people who've got a mortgage or own their own home. 16 million of us own 2.8 million acres. Okay, 16 million of us own 2.8 million acres. Going back to the families, they own 0.3% of the population, own 37 million acres. Folks, they're having a pants down. They shafted us right, left and centre. Even when we buy our little houses, the whole scam is to nick as much land as possible and keep hold of it. There's a list of the top landowners. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to do that because I'll soon be time for closing up. I'll do this next week. Okay, through the 18th century enclosures, the landowning class stole 8 million acres from the people. They still hide their crimes and their takings. Remember, this is all from the book. What's the book called again? I forgot the title of the book there for a minute. Who owns... is it Who Owns Britain and Ireland? Yeah, Who Owns Britain and Ireland, sorry. Excuse me, I've got a little cough. Just have a drink of water. Okay. Okay, where did I get to? Yeah. So they stole. Where did I get to? I'll read it again. Through the 18th century enclosures, the landowning class stole 8 million acres from the people. They still hide their crimes and their takings. The 1872 return of owners of land was made, but then hidden and never updated. Shares have to be registered, but land does not. Get this, the land registry does not know who owns between 30 and 50% of land. The land registry does not know who owns it. Almost up to half of the land, they don't know who owns it. It's a scam again, isn't it? Just as in 1872, the state is defending landed capital by making it less visible. Class power does not depend on sitting in the House of Lords, but on private ownership of the means of production, protected and subsidised by a capitalist state. The Greens, I don't know what that means, like the Heritage Lobby, shield the landowners against public ownership of the land. Shield the landowners against public ownership. They've stolen the land off us, they've nicked it off us. The Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs says its mission is to shift EU subsidies from food production to land management. But the EU already does this with its 2 billion with a B, annual subsidy that goes to the landowners and not to the working farmers. The landowners get $2 billion a year, the farmers get nothing. It says here we need to produce our own food. Food production is in our national strategic interest. It is a national security issue that must not be determined either by the EU or by the market. Nearly finished on this, folks. I'll do more of it next week. I'm closing up then. The landowner's wealth is a parasite on Britain. Remember, it's these elite families. The least productive part of the economy with the most state support. Their wealth comes not from farming, nor even from renting the land, but from trickling land onto the urban housing market. They sell land to property developers at an average price of £404,000 per acre. The clearing banks, here we are with the banks again, they're all in it together. The clearing banks and building societies strip our industries of investment capital, then support their clients, the landowners, by running the rigged and overpriced land market. It's a massive scam. Whereas they pay no tax and they don't pay anything else. They get rewarded by the EU and by the government, $2 billion from each, to steal the land away from us. Okay. Oh, just got a message there. What does it say? I'll just have a quick look, because it's... Oh, okay, I can carry on, can I? Oh, Paul says I can carry on. Cheers, mate. Okay, I'll carry on a little bit then. What time are we on? 1:30. I'm all right till 10, so that's brilliant. Yeah, so they're stealing the land offers for the elite families. You're getting paid backhanders. European Union's giving them backhanders. The government's giving them backhanders. The farmers are working like mad, and they're taking everything off the farmers. Instead of it being food production from the farmers like it used to be years and years and years ago, it's just the landowners nicking the money, rigging the markets, and earning a fortune. Excuse me. So the last bit, Britain needs land reform. Okay, remember this is the review by William Podmore. It says windfall gains on development land should be made subject to windfall taxes. In other words, the ones making the gains on the lands are paying no tax whatsoever, while we are paying 10 billion with a B in council tax. The more land they own, they should be paying tax. That's what it's saying there. We should also tax land and stop the owners avoiding tax through offshore trusts. There we are with that word again. My favourite word, apart from no, my favourite word in the English language is T-R-U-S-T, trust, or with an S on the end, trusts. So, we should also tax land and stop the owners avoiding tax through offshore trusts. They stick everything in trusts, folks, so they don't have to pay tax on it. So, I'm back to mirroring everything again. Let's us stick everything that we own in trusts as well. This could raise £17 billion from the taxes if they were paying tax. That's 17 billion. That's far more than our council tax, and yet all they do is stick it in a trust and they don't have to pay tax. Finishing up now, 2 lines left. The European Convention of Human Rights says there should be no confiscation without compensation. Haven't the landowners had enough compensation already? We need more land for housing. I nearly worked in a homeless shelter. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of men, women, children homeless, while these greedy bastards nick the land and don't pay a penny. We need more land for housing. This would cut land prices and free more of it up to invest in good quality spacious homes and gardens and revive the building industry. Yeah, so there you have it. So I wanted to talk about that. And I'll tell you why I wanted to speak about that is because on the Critical Mass show on Monday, I think it was, Paul Giovanni's Critical Mass show, Stuart Hill from Forvik was in there. I've come up with a plan. I've heard the chat room going like mad, but I've had to come off screen, so if I've not answered you back, just forgive me for that. So I've got left 14 minutes, yeah. Stuart Hill has created, for want of a better word, the independent sovereign nation of Forvik. It's on the top of the page on Critical Mass homepage. Have a look at it, click on it, fantastic, great guest. Love to speak to him, love to meet him. He's basically proved that the island that he was given just north of the Shetlands the Shetlands don't belong to Scotland, thus his island does not. So it's his own sovereign, independent island with its own laws, rules, and regulations, like the Crown Corporation one, the City of London. So I've come up with a plan. I tried this 2 years ago. Oh, good link. Paul's put the link there in the chat room. I tried this 2 years ago but ran out of ideas, and now I've listened to Stuart Hill. I've come up with a plan. I've got a little piece of land here with 2 buildings on. Phil from the chat room's been to my house. It's all right, Phil, isn't it? It's got 2 buildings, 2 houses basically on a small piece of land enclosed. I tried 2 years ago to make it a sovereign. Don't laugh at me. I tried 2 years ago to think of a way to make it a sovereign, independent state, so I am not subject to any jurisdiction outside. I couldn't quite figure it out. From listening to Stuart Hill, I think I figured it out. How to do it. In fact, I know I figured it out. How do I do it? Well, I can't go into it tonight, but I'm going to perfect it. Soon, if I got this right, I always say this is my catchphrase, if I've got this right, and I'm pretty sure I have, I could do with speaking to somebody a bit more intelligent than me, maybe to Stuart and a few other people, is I'm going to try and create my own sovereign independent little state, my own piece of land. I am the freeholder of the land, the peaceful inhabitant, and elected head of my family, elected head of a family. So I'm going to do it. So I will be a citizen of the sovereign independent state of Freemanland, or Freeland, that's what I want to call it. So I'll tell you all about that next week when I've done some more research on it. So, if Stuart Hill can do it on Forvik, we can perhaps all do it, or maybe we can link up to his. So how long have we got left? Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll stick a song on and then I'll close up. So, I am not worried about the courts or anybody anymore. I know I can beat them. I can beat them every time, and so can we. And I'll speak more about this little package I've put together. And people will come up with better stuff than this, but at least it's something. It's a starting point. And I think it was a chap called Truth Juice Dave. He got a great result in court. I think it was the day before me. I think it was something to do with council tax or speeding or one of them. But I've forgotten what it is now, but he got a great result as well. So we are starting to get results, guys. So any problems, I am just walking away from them. I'm not interested. I'm walking away from them lot who... Oh, I've got the wrong song there. I was just going to play a song. Good job I didn't stick it on. It's the wrong one. I'm walking away from them lot who think they've got a claim on me and can't prove it. So it's no trouble to me anymore. It used to be like a trouble. I used to feel troubled. Now I just walk away from it. So I'll stick this on, then I'll close up and close off with the song. So I'll stick this on for 2 minutes. Yeah, Craig David there with I'm walking away, and that's me. I'm walking away from you psychotic, evil bunch of, I don't want to swear because it's not quite 9 o'clock, bunch of knobs that think you can enslave us all. Well, you have been enslaving us all. Increasing legislation, ever increasing daily now. 2,500 extra bits of legislation this year have come through. Further taking away every single ounce of rights or freedoms, fundamental freedoms that we've got. I'm walking away from you. I don't care what you say. I've seen a change. I saw fear in magistrates' eyes. I saw fear in the barristers' eyes. I always finish off with a bit of a positive. And that's because we're getting there, guys. You might not think so. But this last, I would say, 2 months, things are turning. The wheels of commerce, and that it's all about money, like I said earlier. The wheels of commerce and the wheels of injustice that have been chugging along have slowly started to grind to a halt. And if we keep pushing forward and getting results, and it takes a lot of hard work. I've had to work really hard on this, and so has everybody else who's getting a result. And we all keep having a go. We'll all keep sticking together and having a go. And eventually, those wheels will start driving backwards, and we'll start shoving them. And we'll start shoving them backwards, and we'll assert our own fundamental freedoms and rights. Why? Because we're doing nothing wrong, and they're doing everything they can. They're throwing everything at us now. They're panicking. That's why I wasn't punished at all, but I was found guilty just to save face from these psychos. Yeah, so like a bit of a mini rant there, wasn't it? So I'm going to have to close up now because Alex is coming on now, and he'll probably give me a telling off because I can't keep up with him. He's that sharp, he'll tie me in knots. Yeah, so thanks for listening. I'm going to play out with a U2 song. Still haven't found what I'm looking for, one of my favourite U2 songs of all time. And I picked this on purpose because I still haven't found what I'm looking for, and we haven't found what we're looking for yet, have we? But we're getting there. For those of you who have been down or think there's not much chance or it's too hard a task, I don't know what that is in the chat room, it goes on forever, that. Yeah, or think it's too hard a task, let me just tell you that there's many people behind the scenes getting results and pushing forward. There's Rob Bollocks over at Ashton, the Ashton crew lot, coming up with fantastic stuff. He's helped me out. There's Danny Bampin, Like I said, there's Stuart Hill, there's many, many people, too numerous to mention. We're all linking up now, and we're going to beat the bastards. Asked me 2 months ago, I thought it was on a knife edge, and now I think we're getting the upper hand. So, full of confidence, let's not be down, let's drive forward, and let's just shove it right up. And I think that's what we've got to do, and I think that's what we're going to do. So, I have now gone blind on my playlist, I don't know what I'm playing now. What did I say to it? Oh yeah, you two, weren't it? Yes, so I'm going to clear off for Alex, I've just got time to slot this in. Thanks for listening, hope you have a great week. I'll be in the chat rooms all week. Anybody wants to contact me by email at outofthematrix@criticalmassradio.co.uk. So thanks a lot for listening, and I'll see you all again soon. Cheers. Good night.